the World Trade Organization opens its doors to it. The Iraqi economy returns strongly to international competition. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. KTFA, Claire. The World Trade Organization opens its doors to it. The Iraqi economy returns strongly to international competition. July 22, 2024, the World Trade Organization has accelerated Iraq's steps to join it, following the resumption of negotiations that had been suspended for more than 16 years. The Iraqi delegation is preparing for the next round of negotiations that are expected to resolve this issue, which will open up global trade horizons for Iraq and return it to strong economic competition in the region and the world under a multilateral economic system. According to officials, the government of Mohammed Shia al-Sudani has only addressed all the previous obstacles that prevented Iraq from joining the international organization. As for the first time, the import program was voted on, which includes setting controls for chaos and identifying real traders, in addition to other details related to customs tariffs as well as the necessary legislation for it. Economic reform and exchange rate adjustment. Economic expert Naji al-Obeidi, in an interview with Al-Ahd News, believes that Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization will have positive effects, attributing this to the fact that it will increase pressure on the government to initiate the long-awaited economic reforms. Al-Obeidi added that the World Trade Organization usually intervenes in the exchange rate policy when the concerned country deliberately keeps the value of its local currency low, in order to improve the competitiveness of local production and encourage exports at the expense of foreign goods, indicating that this does not apply to Iraq, where previous governments resorted to raising the exchange rate of the dinar in an artificial and arbitrary manner with the aim of gaining political and popular support. He pointed out that joining the international organization would contribute to controlling this file. Customs restrictions and agricultural support. In this regard, the financial advisor to the Prime Minister, Mazhar Mohammed Salah, stated in an interview with Al-Ahd News that Iraq has adopted broad open policies towards the world since 2003 and has sought to establish important economic and legislative rules that operate according to the mechanisms of the market system, most of which have helped improve Iraq's foreign trade after an economic blockade that lasted for more than a decade, and led to Iraq's marginalization on the map of the global economic system and deprived it of investment opportunities, progress, development, and technological knowledge that should have helped it confront the rapid developments and changes that international markets have witnessed and whose competitive capabilities have changed dramatically over the past 2 decades at least. Salah pointed out that the World Organization imposes on the new members of the Developing Countries Group to work under conditions, the first of which is to reduce customs restrictions by 24% and cancel non-customs restrictions for a period of 6 years from the date of joining, and the second is to reduce agricultural support by 13.3% over a period of 10 years from joining. Salah explained that these regulatory conditions of the World Trade Organization clash with the conditions and situations of the agricultural market and the global food stock exchange itself. If we look at the agricultural monopolies in the world in light of the deterioration of agricultural development in Iraq, we find a real threat to national food security that restricts the country in the event of joining the organization unless it is preceded by starting or following an agricultural program for self-sufficiency immediately. We will really need a green revolution similar to what Mexico and many Latin American countries have done, especially if we know that there are between 3 and 6 major monopolistic companies in the world that control 80 to 90% of agricultural crop trade and control prices and quantities such as wheat, sugar, tea, coffee, cotton, and jute, at a time when 10 multinational companies still dominate a third of the production and trade of seeds and pesticides in the world. Breaking international isolation. Salah pointed out that, despite the above, Iraq's entry and integration into the global economic space through the World Trade Organization and its dealings with international groups on terms that applied to everyone from a formal standpoint at a time when the world is still divided between the countries of the North and the South or the countries of the advanced industrial center and the developing periphery. Iraq has no choice but to leave its international isolation that it inherited since the siege and placing Iraq under the burden of Chapter 7. The effects of which still provide a negative economic environment hostile to development and perhaps obstructing natural integration into the global market. Accelerate joining steps. For his part, Minister of Trade Athir Dawood al-Ghariri confirmed the resumption of negotiations for Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization and the acceleration of its steps, which is a qualitative event and a confirmation of what the government promised through its program to reform the economic situation, considering the private sector an essential part and the backbone of the Iraqi economy. Al-Ghariri said in a statement followed by Al-Ahd News that the fourth round of negotiations will be held during the first quarter of next year, stressing that this acceleration means that the negotiations are proceeding very quickly towards Iraq's accession to the World Trade Organization. Considering Iraq an important economic bloc and all countries keen for Iraq to return as an economic player in a multilateral system. For his part, the Saudi ambassador to the World Trade Organization, Sakur Abdullah al-Muqbil, said that there is a positive view that we will find Iraq joining the multilateral trading system, as it is one of the largest economies outside this organization, and al-Muqbil confirmed that the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has a priority that Iraq's desires to join the organization be fulfilled. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: Dinar Recaps.